Welcome to Trojan Conquest Live 15. USC is flexing its recruiting muscle, but I'll let Gavin Morris, Director of Player Development, tell you a little bit more about it.
Hold up.
In the building.
What are we drinking? What are we sipping on? What are we sipping on?
Commitments.
Welcome, everybody, to Trojan Conquest Live 15. We now have 76 days until we kick off against San Jose State to start the 2023 season. Remember, I'm just a reminder to you guys, this is a fan interactive show. We love to hear the chat. We love your questions. We'll be getting those questions, and we will also be taking phone calls. Yes, we have a new phone line. I will be dropping. Actually, the phone line is in the description. So you have two ways now you can join us. You can either call us on the phone, or you could join like the old way with your StreamYard and come in. Sorry, I will tell you, I'm a bit under the weather today. I'm barely holding it together. Luckily, Matt's coming in, so I won't be talking too much. Rick, how are you doing today?
I'm doing tremendous, Tim. Sorry to hear you're under the weather, but we got you all covered. No worries. Great to hear the latest recruiting news. We'll get you caught up to that. And who doesn't like celebrating a commitment? Gavin Morris does it like no other. So enjoy his spirit. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight for another edition of Trojan Conquest Live. Tim, what are we going to be talking about?
Yeah, so tonight we got a bunch on the plate. We're going to start talking about some commitments last week. Kind of old news now. We've had a show on it, but we're going to go over it really quickly. Then we're going to talk about some big visitors came in, a couple of St. John Bosco Braves, huge pickups if we're able to flip one and sign the other. And then after that, we're going to move in, talk about some maybe some other visits coming in and a question mark, because we still have one more emoji out there that we need to discuss and figure out. Then later on, we're going to talk about the Big 12. Big news came out this week regarding the Big 12 and scheduling. It started to get real, you guys. Rick and I were talking last week. It was a big thing that we knew we were going to the Big 12. But now that we're actually seeing names, not the dates, but we know who we're facing. We know where we're facing them. It's becoming real.
You got Big 12 on the brain, Tim, which is justifiable because everybody's been talking about the Big 12 and the Pac-12, but we are moving to the Big 10. The Big 10.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, is it the Big 10? Oh, that's where we're going.
Yeah. So
my bad.
There's been a lot of news on the Big 12, but that's not on this show. That's on other shows where they get reports of reports. But we're not going to talk about that on this episode.
Okay, so Rick, so go ahead and lead us in. So how's the recruiting going for USC?
Well, the recruiting's going well. We, as you know, we had 6 additional recruits. So we have a total of 9. SC has 9. Last weekend was a big weekend, but I tend to differ. I think this weekend is a big weekend for a number of different reasons. And that is because there's only 2 recruits, and that's Peyton Woodyard, who's a Georgia commit, and Kingston VILIAMU-ASA, KVA, both from St. John Bosco. And it's reported that Kingston is leaning towards Notre Dame. But this would signify that Lincoln Riley and his staff, if we can get these 2 to commit, those would be huge pickups. A linebacker and a safety, both top 100 recruits in the 247 sports composite. And as you can see, Lincoln, we'll talk about later today, Lincoln Riley pulled out all the stops, the staff did. And they're making a big effort to get these 2. And then the following weekend, next weekend, is a huge recruiting weekend. We'll kind of briefly touch upon that, but really go into what's happening with this weekend. But recruiting is moving on. I believe we are number 19, moved up from about a week and a half ago from number 57.
Yeah, on the big movement, it was because of this. We already had 3 guys committed to the class of 2024, but then we added 6 more throughout the week. We flipped Dakota Fields, who everyone thought was going to Oregon. He's the cornerback from Jay Sarah. He's a tall guy. He's a 6'1" corner, really good speed, great cover corner. Then we already had Xavier Jordan, a receiver, and then we got the news that we're getting Mr. Fountain from Georgia, pulling someone out of Kirby Smart's backyard. He's an edge rusher, 6'5", 240. We knew we had Joey Olsen. He was the first commit we had up from Oregon. He's a 6'5" tight end. They see him also maybe as a very tall receiver, so it'll be interesting to see how they use him. Then we have Mana Ititi. He's an offensive tackle. This guy's very raw, 6'4.5", 289 pounds. The issue with him, though, is that he hasn't played a lot of football. It's a physical specimen, amazing, athletic. He played a lot of basketball. He's just switching over to football. He's from the Congo. And then Jarvis Boatwright last weekend, we found out safety, 6'2", from Clearwater, Florida. He's joining. He's also a commit. Then late in the week, so there were 2 emojis that we didn't know about. One of them was Elijah Newby. Here's another one, Far Reach, linebacker, 6'3", 206. And get this, from Connecticut. So that shows you the reach we're getting right now. We're going national. We knew about Brian Jackson, the running back, 6 foot, 200 pounds from Texas, from McKinney, Texas. And then the last one we got last weekend was Hayden Tretter. He's probably a guard, an interior offensive lineman, but 6'6", big guy, 6'6", 270. You're going to need to fill out that frame. So with that, Rick, anyone stick out in specifically you want to talk about from that group?
Well, I think as you mentioned, Tim, that Lincoln Riley and his staff are showing that we can recruit nationally, and that's very important. Mainly, they've been mining the DMV area in Texas, but they go in, as you'd mentioned, into Florida, Clearwater, Florida to get Boatwright. They go into Georgia to get another defensive player in Fountain, and they go into Connecticut. So they're showing that they can recruit on a national level. They also got the offensive lineman out of Cherry Creek High School in Denver. I think the one that really intrigues me, and you'd mentioned him, he's from Modesto, California, Northern California, Central Catholic High School. Mana Atete, I believe, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's an offensive lineman. He's raw. I believe he's from the Congo, I want to say, but wow. I'd like to see him. He's, from what I understand, he's a road grading offensive lineman. He's got the size and the physical tools as we'll need moving into the Big Ten in 2024 and beyond. So that's the
he's
one.
super athletic.
Yeah.
And his offensive line coach, his high school offensive line coach, has it right. He's calling him Mana Ititi. That's what he calls him. I'm assuming his coach knows his name, so I think that's the proper pronunciation.
Well,
so it's a good breakdown, right? I mean, there's a lot of guys they brought in. If you want to break down geographically, it's 3 guys from California, 1 guy from Colorado, 1 guy from Connecticut, 1 guy from Florida, 1 from Georgia, Oregon, and the running back Jackson from Texas. And so if you want to break it up by position, that's 2 receivers, 2 O-linemen, 1 defensive lineman, 1 linebacker, 2 defensive backs, and 1 running back. Again, going after positions that we need. Trench. We're heading into the Big Ten. We need those big guys. We need a big running back, a Big Ten running back like Jackson out of Texas. I think they're filling all their needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And the focus now is switching towards California. And I think clear messages have been sent out by Lincoln Riley and USC about how important recruiting in California is. You look specifically, there's 6 players from, I believe, St. John Bosco and 5 from Mater Dei that are in the top 100, 150 recruits. Definitely in the top 30 in the state of California. But the recruits that you have to close on, and that's what this weekend's about. From here moving forward, is they have their targets, and now we're going to see how they can fill their needs in the state of California, and then obviously throughout the rest of the country.
Yeah. And in the past, USC has received some very high recruiting classes over the past 10 years. But the problem was it was all skill guys, and we weren't building depth on the line. We definitely weren't building depth on the interior defensive line. And with this new staff, especially with the transfer portal, we're starting to get deep. And again, you guys, there's a lot that goes into that. One, there's the competition. There's a huge, there's not a huge drop off between your first and second place. Guys got to work their butts off because they don't want the guy behind them passing them. So if you got 2-3 guys on your heel for your position, you're going to work that much harder. You're going to pay that much more attention and practice. And that's a big thing. But where it really helps, if you guys remember last year, USC was flying through the season. Then all of a sudden we go to Utah. We have to get a couple injuries. Then there's guys playing with injury, and we started to see the tackling and the defense really suffered down the stretch. And that's because we didn't have the depth. When you have the depth, not only in games, but throughout the season where you can rotate guys in, that's where you start to keep those guys healthy. You know, it'd be great if we were the SEC and we could maybe have play an FCS team in November. Sorry, we play 9 here and we'll be playing 9 in the Big Ten. But short of that, you want to stack as many guys at the line positions as possible because you are going to get injuries.
Yeah, and you're seeing Lincoln Riley, like you mentioned, through the transfer portal. We're getting depth, and now we're seeing his type of players in this 2024 class, and you're seeing the type of players that's gonna be a part of the rotation for 2024 and beyond in the Big Ten. So, real exciting to see. And so far, we only have one wide receiver, which is pleasing. But my focus this year is on the defense, and one need that hopefully we'll be addressing, but I haven't seen as of yet, but there's a lot of time left, is defensive line. So that is one area that we're going to need. I like what we're doing on the offensive line. We're going to have to build the trenches if we are going to be successful and win games in the Big Ten.
And what we are doing, you guys, if you just want to check it, we have a poll this week. And we're excited. It's a little teaser. Later on, Matt and Zemek's going to be here, and we're going to be talking about the Big Ten and our move to the Big Ten. Our schedule for 2024 and for 2025, and going forward, really. And so our poll for you really is over, next year. Next year, not this coming year, but the following year, in 2024. Which game intrigued you the most? I'm trying to remember. I wrote down LSU. At Penn State, Michigan at home, and I believe at Notre Dame. So it'll be Notre Dame at home in 2024. So which one of those games, you guys, are you? If you can only pick one. So the thing here is let's say you can only go to one of these games. Which one is it going to be? And if you want to drop in the chat, why, or if you're watching this later on, if you want to drop in the comments, tell us which game you'd really want to go to and why. Because I'm really intrigued. If you guys notice, a lot of you guys leaving comments in the comment section. I respond to all your comments. So if you have a question you don't want to ask during the show, or if something you want to say, I promise you, if you take a moment to watch one of my videos and leave a comment, I promise you that I will respond to your comments. So go ahead and hit that and let us know which team you would like to see. So as I said, we're talking about the fact that we know that one of the recruits was from the linebacker from Connecticut, Mr. Newbie, but Elijah, this is the only one. There were 2 emojis that went up. You have any guesses on that second one, Rick? I mean, I have a fantasy list, but I mean, I'm not really sure exactly what it actually could be timing wise.
I'm thinking it's going to be Taylor Tatum. That's who I think it's going to be.
Yeah, that's what I said last week, and I'm gonna stick with it. Yeah. I think Taylor Tatum is going to be that guy. It's going to shock the world because. I'm sorry to all the Michigan guys. I caught a lot of stick. They're all telling me, "Oh, you're crazy. He's a lean." A couple things also I'm going to say. I think he's leaning towards SC now. Just like I told you guys last week, you don't sign kids in May and you don't win championships, recruiting championships in June. So let's let this thing play out. But everything we're hearing, he came out. He had a great visit. He said all the things. He basically said that Lincoln Riley's system is perfect for him. Let that sink in for a second. That Riley's system is perfect. He feels that it's perfect for him. So that's going to be huge for us SC going forward. So actually, hold on. We have a very special guest coming in, Mr. Matt Zemek. Matt, how are you doing?
All right. How are you guys?
We're doing great. We're just talking right now about last week's recruiting haul and the fact that there's still one outstanding emoji. We're ticking off our dream list. We both said Taylor Tatum. Do you have any guesses who it might be? I'm not going to hold you to it.
Nah, I'm not going to hazard a guess. Like I'm not savvy the way you guys are in that regard. I just want it to come, really. I just want the suspense to end because as you guys are aware of, Lincoln Riley tweeted Monday night and then midweek of last week. So that's 2 tweets and we got one announced commitment since then. So I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Okay. And so I love the way they're going about this. You could tell they're really targeting Southern California. Now, they had a video earlier week, for the guys outside, but they're really they're really hitting the kids in Los Angeles and saying, look, all the great players, if you're great, you stay. If you're like we had Anthony Munoz, if you're like a Ronnie Lott, right? If you're, think about any of our Heisman Trophy winners, they're all from California. Correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, but I believe they're all from California. So the goal here is they're doing a campaign saying, you want to be great, all the greats stay here in California. They're not leaving. You know, if you're great in California, you play great in California. And they went through this campaign, and they're really pushing it. I'm sure this is targeted towards the guys, the list of guys over at St. John Bosco and the guys at Mater Dei. Guys, thoughts on the campaign?
Well, Caleb Williams wasn't from California, but that's all right.
Okay, so that's the latest one. But DMV, we're doing fine the DMV as well. But yeah, don't worry. He'll be a whole different story. He'll be a campaign for 13, and we'll get plenty of guys from there.
I just thought I'd point that out before somebody in the chat corrected us. But and I too will answer some of your questions on the video. So thank you. Keep on getting those questions and comments in. But that was a direct message. You look at the video that was tweeted out by USC. It came out Saturday afternoon. We have 2 major recruits from Southern California. That one is already committed to Georgia, and that is kind of an example of what's happened in the past 5 years. Is a lot of these recruits, especially from St. John Bosco, will go to Ohio State. They'll go to Georgia. They'll go to Alabama. They'll go out of state. I mean, look at Bryce Young. Look at DJ, who went to Clemson. So that has been a pattern. And so USC is saying no more. We're going to market it. If you want to be great, be in California. Somebody might point out, why is Tiger Woods in that video? He went to Stanford. Well, Tiger Woods is from California. He went to school at Stanford. He is perceived to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest golfers of all time. You got George Lucas in there. They're building a $1 billion Star Wars museum right there on Vermont Avenue. It's being erected right now near the Coliseum. You can go to the Jimmy Iovine and Dr. Dre Music School. Unfortunately, Mateo Ukulele didn't want to go. He went up to Oregon for his music education, but it is there. So you can get your business degree and at the Marshall School of Business. There's so many different opportunities in LA. You don't need to leave California. It's a great school. The athletic program is fantastic. The football program is on the rise. And I think it's a great opportunity for USC to let everybody know it's right here. And next weekend is going to be the golden hour. And that should be an exciting, fun-filled recruiting weekend.
Yeah, and that was that big recruiting weekend last year. They had that big haul from. Most of the guys we got, actually, we signed. So this one's a lot bigger than that one. I even believe there's a lot of guys coming in next week for that golden hour. So if they were able to double up that again, I don't even know if we have that many slots available. But so speaking of recruiting and speaking of keeping guys at home, let's move on then to this guy, right? Well, these two. So we talked about them. They're here. They're a high focus, and they brought in the big guns. They brought in the big guns for Woodyard and VILIAMU-ASA. They decided for these two, they're not going to mess around. So they brought in some help. Number 43. They said, okay, come on in. Troy Polamalu was on campus, and it wasn't bad. There's a picture later on also they had with Taylor Mays. So a couple of great Trojan safeties that popped in and helped out. It's always nice when you dig into your bag of tricks and pull out Hall of Famers to talk to your guys saying, hey, look, if you want to be great and stay in LA. What do you guys think?
Matt, go at it, my friend.
Well, Lincoln Riley is a great situational play caller, right? It extends to the recruiting trail. First off, you pick your spots. You would choose Troy Polamalu for this particular target on this particular weekend. But the other thing is, you don't just do this any old time, right? And I don't recall Polamalu being involved in last year's recruitments. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. Yeah. So you wait until the brand's been reestablished, right? Let's say USC had a less than fully impressive season last year, just hypothetically, do you then call in the big guns? Probably not. But Lincoln Riley knows that now he has a chance to really maximize this thing. And so that's when you call on the cavalry, and you certainly get that help defense. So Lincoln Riley knows how to pick his spots. I think that's the story. You don't You don't just do this anytime. You have to build back some credibility in your brand, in your program's reputation. USC didn't have that fully restored brand in last June's recruiting cycle. No, you wait until it's really rocking and rolling, and then you do it. There's a definite wisdom, and it also respects Troy Polamalu's time for that precise set of reasons, that you're not just doing this as a knee-jerk reflexive thing. No, you're doing it because actually now the program has been restored to a certain extent, and now you can go all the way. It shows just like an astute, situationally aware element of Lincoln Riley. It's one of the things that makes him special.
Absolutely. And Lincoln Riley and his staff and Annie Hansen, this is a huge planned recruiting weekend. There's only 2 players, but it is so big in the future of USC recruiting, not only locally, but nationally. And what, like you said, Matt, perfect time to maximize Troy Polamalu's time. Shows that Lincoln Riley is in touch with, major former players. He's going to come back and really focus in, great defensive player at USC. He was part of the Hackett team. And under Pete Carroll, he was able to flourish as a defensive player, go on to the NFL, and become a Hall of Famer. So he is the example of the change. Peyton Woodyard, if you want to be part of the change as USC becomes what USC can be and moving into the Big Ten and having the chance to be on ABC, NBC, and CBS, and play big-time football games, as we'll get into later in the show. As many of you Trojans know who our opponents are in 24 and 25. But you come to USC, young man. You don't need to go to Georgia. You come do it right here. And that's what it's about. And Lincoln Riley, he's not playing for steak knives. He's playing for Cadillacs, because ABC, always be closing. Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, and they have a great opportunity, because I just think this year defensively, it's just a perfect timing for USC. Going into the Big Ten, just the level of players. I mean, it seems like a lot of the guys from modern day are offensive guys, but you do have Breland as a lineman. He's going to be big, but really it seems like there's big bumper crop from Bosco of all these awesome defenders with a lot of size, a lot of size. And being a St. John Bosco Brave, I've been pretty bummed out actually as an alumnus that a lot of the Braves go off everywhere else. They're going off to Ohio State. They're going up north to that AAA Eugene place. They're going to all these other places besides SC. I think this is a great opportunity to lock it down and say, hey, we understand in the past our program probably wasn't developing kids, and maybe there's a good reason why Jason Negro is probably telling his kids, I don't know, probably not telling kids, but is okay with his kids going to places because they weren't being developed. So now hopefully it's gonna be changed. Hopefully it's gonna be changed. The fact that you have the coaching staff, you got Nua on the line, right? Across the board, we're showing, and all we gotta do is get some of these guys into the NFL, and that's the biggest ticket. Once you start putting guys every year into the NFL, there's a reason why kids are flocking to Alabama. There's a reason why kids are flocking to Ohio State and to Georgia. There's a reason why they go there, because they're a proven. You come in, we're a factory, and we'll get you right into the first, second round of the NFL. And that more than any coach, more than any position coach, even more than NIL. If you could show that you're a one-way ticket to the NFL, that's what these kids, that's what these families want to hear.
And it's important to note on the heels of that, Tim, that what distinguished Pete Carroll at USC, it wasn't the first round picks. It was having so many guys in the second and third round on day 2 on Friday, getting a lot of top 100 NFL draft picks. And that's where the program cratered under Clay Helton. You still saw the first round picks. There would be an Elijah Vera Tucker. There would be an Austin Jackson, but it was on that day 2. That was the barren area. And so really, I mean, first things first, we have a 2023 season, but I'm already anticipating that 2024 NFL draft when you're going to get a lot of Trojans called on day 2 on the Friday in the top 70, top 80, top 100. And all the forward momentum you're seeing in recruiting now, just wait. After that 2024 draft in which Caleb goes number 1, There's going to be another first-round pick for sure, and then lots of day 2 selections in that top 100. Then this thing's going to accelerate to an even higher level. Might be kind of hard to contemplate given how fruitful this recruiting cycle is becoming in this month of June, but it's going to be at an even higher level after that 2024 draft. Players are going to get even more confirmed proof of concept under Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, and I talked about, I believe, was it a Thursday show, Matt? I can't remember. Man, it would be such a coup if somehow NUA can finally get Corey Foreman just in the right situation with his hand in the dirt, rushing at the end position, and really showcase that talent he's brought here. Because I remember this, you guys. Corey Foreman didn't come here and make himself a 5-star. Corey Foreman would say, hey, look, I'm a 5-star. That's not what happened. These services hyped him up. You know, situations weren't right for this kid. I'm hoping and I'm thinking that everything kind of clicks this year. It comes together. And can you imagine if in 2 years, Sean Nua could flip him around and get him into the NFL player that he is? I mean, that's the kind of development and that's the kind of switch that's really going to be a feather in their cap. So good luck. I mean, again, bringing in the big dog, bringing in 43, bringing in Polamalu, that definitely cannot hurt, right, guys? So hopefully we can land these two Bosco studs.
Just want to get that comment from Luis Punsel. Unfortunately, his first 2 games are on Pac-12 Network. Luis, It's good. Like you want no disrespect intended to San Jose State and Nevada, but those are the games that should be on Pac-12 Network if there's going to be a Pac-12 Network. Now, of course, the move to the Big Ten is going to increase visibility, but it's worth pointing out this season, Washington versus Michigan State. That's a high-profile game in September. That's going to be Peacock only. And you don't want a game of that caliber on streaming only or your least visible platform. You want that to be available nationally. So, hey, Luis, after San Jose State and Nevada, that's it. That's it for Pac-12 Network. USC plays only 2 home non-conference games because Notre Dame's on the road. So that Nevada game on September 2nd, that's the last Pac-12 Network game ever for USC. You want those lower tier games on P12 Net because like last year, Luis, and everyone else watching here on the Voice of College Football at Trojan Conquest Live, I mean, it was infuriating to have to deal with the Oregon State game, a huge game, being on Pac-12 Network. Not going to get that this year. So this year's a huge improvement on the Pac-12 Network front. Just wanted to address it since the comment was on the screen.
Pete Arbogast used to do this thing where if it was a perfect day, right? If Notre Dame lost, if UCLA lost, and USC won, he called it a perfect day. And they would go to the statue out by the peristyle end of the Coliseum out there, and they would celebrate with some apple juice or something. I can't remember the story. And I'll tell you what, Trojans, if you guys are out there, I'm going to be at that Nevada game. And if you guys want to go to that statue and celebrate with me and have a toast to Ding Dong, the witch is dead, and we no longer have to do any more shows on the Pac-12 Network, I'm legitimately serious. I'm going to be there after the game. I got to rush off to the post-game show, but I'll stop for a few minutes. Everyone wants to meet me there, and we will toast to saying goodbye to that failure that Tennis Larry decided to give us for the Pac-12 Network, because good riddance, and I'll be glad to see the back of that. Speaking of good riddance.
And you know what? I'll be there too, Tim. I'll be at the game, and I'm going to have one of Gavin Morris's drinks that he was having earlier, that commitment drink. I'm going to have that because guess what? We're done with the Pac-12, and we're committed to the Big Ten and major linear TV. So join me as well.
Well, okay, Rick, you got to have a special ale or lager for the occasion. What's your special beer?
Well, the special beer is Pliny the Elder because I'm an IPA guy. But you know what? I'll have a different one. I'll have something creative that day. But thanks, Matt, for the tip. I'll be working on that.
Well, see, this is the thing. Like, so you often have your beers already prepared. It's like, this is my beer for this occasion. Yes. I love it. You're gonna take some months in the lab to figure out which one is appropriate for this one. I can't.
It might be whoever we're playing, whichever Big Ten team we're playing in 2024. I might have to get a local brew from that city to celebrate that. Hey, we're off the Mickey Mouse Network, and now we're going big time.
Get a Reno, Nevada brewery for the Nevada Wolfpack. Hey, so you guys, we love you being out there. And if you guys are enjoying the show, if you're finding the information that we're giving you is useful to you, the best way you can let us know that we're doing a good job is to go ahead, take a minute to go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. Because when we get those subscriptions, we know that the content we're providing for you is what you guys want to hear. So if during the show you feel that you are getting quality for your time, because it is a Sunday, you can be spending time many other places with us. Please go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe, because we appreciate every one of those things. We're trying to double. We have an audacious goal to get over 6,000, but also lets us know that we're going the right direction. We're getting Trojan fans out there that'll join our efforts to get as much USC information out as possible. So, and speaking of staying at home, speaking of great California players, Reggie Bush, it has now been 4,645 days. How many? We must have dozens of, since I started doing this, there's dozens of signs throughout Southern California telling Charlie Baker, man, listen, it's not your fault what Paul D did. You weren't there. What Missy Convoy stitched up the Trojans, that wasn't you. But it is on you, the fact that you're still sitting on your hands and not fixing this thing. And people think that, oh, well, no, it's the Heisman Trust. No, the Heisman Trust is hiding behind the fact that until the NCAA reinstates Reggie, that they can't give him his Heisman back. So Charlie, I'm just telling you, I've been trying to help you out now. This is 15 weeks I've been telling you, you really need to get on the ball and give this man back his Heisman Trophy. So speaking of which, Tommy Trojan, those of you guys have been to the USC campus, this is the center of activity. Back in the day, it used to be the center of tailgating right there in front of Bovard Auditorium, right in the middle of campus. You had the statue Tommy Trojan. 93 years ago, last Wednesday, it was brought to the campus. It was a sculpture. I'm trying to look up the guy's name really fast. Sorry, give me a second. By Roger Noble Burnham. And it was originally called the Trojan Shrine. But it was a sculpture by Roger, and it's a gorgeous one. It's now famously known throughout college football. And it sits right in the middle of campus. On there, it gives you a description. Does anyone in the chat? I'll give you guys 30 seconds. Maybe someone out there has partied enough on Tommy Trojan's footsteps to tell me what is this? It's the inscription at the bottom of the statue. I know if my dad's in there, he's gonna know this one. But anyone out there, any Trojans out there know what's inscribed on the statue? Rick, Matt, do you guys know?
I don't.
I never read it. I didn't look, so I don't know.
Okay, well, on the bottom it says faithful, scholarly, skillful, courageous, ambitious. That's the ideal Trojan. And happy birthday, Tommy! You've done a great job being there for 93 years. So well done. All right, guys, let's go ahead and move into our main topic, which is talking about the big move to the Big Ten. In 2024, you guys, we're moving to the Big Ten. Big news came out this week telling us, who our opponents are going to be. Not necessarily when, but we know the year and we know the where we're playing these teams. Really quickly, if you haven't, go ahead, hit that poll again and vote if you haven't voted, because we're going to go ahead and give the answer out at the very end. We have 71 votes right now, and it looks like by a narrow margin, it looks like Michigan's beating LSU. Amazed that there's a lot of people that I voted for Penn State because I want to go there. Matt, you think it's not going to be a whiteout, but I've never been to Happy Valley for a whiteout. I really would love to see that with my Trojans kicking some Nittany Lion butt. That would be awesome to see. So I'll ask you, Matt, which one of these, if you had to choose between, if you only go to one game, is it Michigan at home, at Penn State, LSU in Vegas, or Notre Dame at home? If you only go to one game next season, what would you pick? Or sorry, 2024, what would you pick?
Yeah, well, I'm a romantic, and this was very exciting. It was also a very busy time at Trojans Wire. We like being busy because that means more page views. It means more people reading our stuff. But I do want to say, since we're having this conversation, since we're going to be dealing with a world in which USC, Michigan, and Ohio State are in the same conference, I'm going to miss the classic Rose Bowl. I'm a romantic. I'm a traditionalist. I'm an old timer. I'm going to miss Michigan and USC and Ohio State in the Granddaddy on January 1. That's consigned to history now, and it's sad. But Michigan coming to the Coliseum to play USC, Jim Harbaugh against Lincoln Riley. Whew, that's going to be magic. That's going to be an electric scene, and you can already realize, no offense intended to Oregon and Washington. Those are fine programs. and they're going to be very competitive this year, and they're going to give USC a run for the roses, a run for the money. But man, to have Michigan and Ohio State coming to your ball yard once every few years, that's big league. I mean, that's just taking it to a whole nother level. And so the romantic in me has, hey, Michigan comes west. It's not on January 1, but Michigan coming to Los Angeles. That's the game that I would go to if I had extra disposable income. So like that is the most irresistible one. But that's just a separate conversation. I know that Rick will give his answer in terms of the game that he would want to go to if he could choose. But just very briefly, if we're talking about the most important game, we've written about this at Trojans Wire over the past few days. The most important 2024 game in my mind is clearly LSU. And it's not just because it's the first game, but with the 12-team playoff, think about this, everyone. With the 12-team playoff, because USC is playing a stacked schedule, LSU, Michigan, Wisconsin, Penn State, Notre Dame, because USC is playing such a stacked schedule, if you get that first LSU win done, check mark, you get that safely tucked away, what does that mean? It means that realistically, you just have to split those 4 games against Michigan, Wisconsin, Penn State, and Notre Dame to go 10-2. Because if USC is going 10-2, I mean, obviously the Trojans will aspire to be better than that. But I'm just kind of laying out the parameters here. If USC goes 10-2 against that schedule in 2024, done. They will be in the playoff. They will be in that 12-team playoff. It's a lot like, if Alabama goes 10-2 in any year, Alabama's going to make the 12-team playoff. If Georgia goes 10-2, again, like those programs expect to be 12-0, 11-1 minimum. So like in terms of what USC should expect to do, USC should expect to win 11 games. But I'm just laying it out in terms of making the 12-team playoff. If USC beats LSU, it's going to be next to impossible. It's going to be really hard for the Trojans to miss the 2024 playoff. But if you lose that game, then you know that you're probably going to have to go 3-1 against those 4 teams, Michigan, Wisconsin, Penn State, Notre Dame. So the LSU game, it's just going to set up everything in terms of leverage, in terms of cushion, in terms of everything for that 24 season. But now, Rick, the game in 2024 that you would want to attend if you could.
Matt, I appreciate your answer. You mentioned you're romantic at heart, and so that would make sense. You would want to go see Michigan in the Coliseum, see the Maize and Blue, because they haven't been there since 1957. And yet, Ohio State's been there a number of times. Why Michigan can't come out to Los Angeles, in my lifetime, I don't know. But they have the most all-time wins in program history, could approach 1,000. Maybe that's a reason, because they haven't played USC enough. They haven't played the big-time programs enough on the road. So, you can stay at home. That's fine. But I've seen Michigan play USC twice. After the 2006 season of the Rose Bowl, USC beat them 32-18. And after the 2003 season, beat them in the Rose Bowl, I believe it was 28-14. Love that flea flicker from Matt. Matt was on the receiving end of that flea flicker from Mike Williams, BMW. And if you remember, Matt, and you remember, Tim, that was a controversial year, that 2003 year.
Our Corn Dog buddies, yep.
Where we weren't allowed to play a certain team. And there was the controversy with that team down on the bayou. So I got some unfinished business. And if it can't be at the bayou, then let it be in Las Vegas. So that's where I want to go. I want to open up with the SEC. I want to open up, even bonus, Brian Kelly, the ex Notre Dame coach. So there's that USC Notre Dame tie there as well. So there's unfinished business, and it's going to happen in Las Vegas. And you know what? Kudos to LSU, because of all the SEC teams, they're the ones that challenge themselves the most, in my opinion. LSU does. And LSU came out to the Coliseum in 1979, Michigan. So there you go. Tim?
Yeah, I think that in 2003, it was the first time ever, and I'm glad the AP got it right, but it was the first time ever that a team was ranked number 1 in both polls and won their bowl game and was not named the national champion. And the BCS thing was absolute disgrace. USC was number 1 in both polls, and they're left out of the game. That just goes to show you how incredibly stupid the BCS era was. And don't get me started on 2008 season as well, because we heard for years how the fact that it's all about defense. They don't play any defense out there on the West Coast. They're all a bunch of offense. And then we lead the country in defense. And, oh, you know what? Let's let Timmy Tebow cry a little bit. And we'll get him into the game, and we'll leave the Trojans out of it. So,
yeah,
and
at about 2003, let's just make the point. Oklahoma it didn't lose on a 2-point conversion, like Nebraska against Miami in that 1984 Orange Bowl. Like it was essentially a tie, but Tom Osborne wanted to go for 2 to try and win it. No, it wasn't like that. Oklahoma got dump trucked by Kansas State, absolutely blown off the field. And yet the Sooners didn't budge. Like, come on. That was just absolutely ridiculous.
And so listen, you guys, I'm just going to hit you up again one more time. We really are trying to get 6,000 by the season start. And if you guys, only if you guys have a good time, you're laughing, you're enjoying the show, you feel like we're giving you value for your time, please hit that like button and subscribe. That way you'll be notified of when the next time we're going live. We're live every Sunday night at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. And then tomorrow night, every Monday, Matt's with Mark, and they go live at 8 Pacific, 11 Eastern. And the double dip between our show and their show should get you ready for the week when it comes to USC football.
And I'm sorry, Tim. I just wanted to add on with the what Matt was saying about how Oklahoma got dump trucked by Kansas State in that Big 12 championship game and went to the NC to play LSU. USC did get its payback the following year against Oklahoma, 55-19. So the players that were still on that team got a little bit of payback. So this game against LSU, obviously it's not going to be any payback, but it is for the alums, the USC fans that remember that game that got cheated. And how about these little nuances? Could it be an Oklahoma coach that helps us take down LSU, led by a Notre Dame coach? I mean, you can't make that stuff up. I mean, it's just college football incest at its finest, if you would. But I mean, I can't wait to go get some Bayou Bengal hunting in Vegas. That's the ultimate.
That's and then Rick, what do we have in the non-conference in 2025? We have Lane Kiffin and Clay Helton coming to the Coliseum.
Yeah,
you can't make this
Hollywood
up.
Script writers, you couldn't possibly write this.
Yep, it's you know what that is? It's a limited engagement, Trojan fans. It's the USC fired head coaches circus. 2 weeks only, back to back at the Coliseum. Get your tickets and your popcorn now, as Lane Kiffin would say.
And you have 2 years, Rick, to come up with your ale and lager for those games.
Okay, hey, I got to credit Gixxer Squid made a comment. He said for that game after Nevada, Schlitz. Drink some Schlitz.
Someone up there also said Sierra Nevada for you as well. The issue, you guys, we have actually, this is gonna be great. We have some people stacking up in the queue, the call queue, in the traditional way, which is through our StreamYard link. Both the phone number and the StreamYard link are in the description. I have not opened up the phone lines yet. I will in a few minutes once we get through this Big Ten talk. But then, as you guys know, in the last section of the show, we absolutely want to hear from all of you guys. So there's 2 ways. A lot of you guys I know maybe you don't trust or don't understand the whole technology of StreamYard. So I spent, and I'm not kidding, a lot of hours trying to figure out how I'm gonna get a phone for you guys. So we now have a phone number. If you look down there, it's 323-285-1231. Go ahead and you call that, and I will get your call a little bit. We have a couple people already lined up in the StreamYard link, but we will hang on there, you guys. We will be to you really soon. So the last topic we had, well, actually, before we move on, so let's look at USC schedule. We haven't done that yet. I mean, we covered it a little bit. We talked about the big games, but I was looking at the games that are coming to UCLA, and I was thinking to myself, so Minnesota, Nebraska, Northwestern. Northwestern hasn't been to the Rose Bowl since 96, the 96 Rose Bowl. Ohio State was just there. But who are you interested to see making it into the Rose Bowl? And I know it's not a traditional Rose Bowl, but you got to know their fans are going to be pretty geeked up and excited for that.
Your question is who would you be excited to see in 2024?
No, what fans do you think are going to be the most excited to be going? Because for instance, something like Maryland, they haven't they just haven't been a part of the Big Ten rivalry long enough really to feel that thing. But you know, schools like Purdue, you know, and that haven't been there in a long time. Most of the teams that are coming out really have actually been to a Rose Bowl within a relatively short amount of time.
Yeah, Tim, the clear answer is Minnesota, right? Because Minnesota has a very rich heritage. You know, that's the school of Bronco Nagurski, you know, one of the all-time NFL greats, and Bernie Bierman, who used to coach Tulane, who, you know, when Tulane played USC in the Cotton Bowl, that was a reason to bring up the Bernie Bierman legacy at Tulane. But then he goes to Minnesota and turns the Gophers into a national championship program. And like Minnesota is like the cow of the Big Ten, in that their Rose Bowl drought goes back to, you know, late 1950s, early 1960s. That's the really, really long drought among a long established, you know, original Big Ten member. So that is the fan base that's definitely just absolutely crying out for renewal and for that big moment. You know, Purdue was there, you know, like in 2000 with Drew Brees going against Washington and Marcus Tuiasosopo, the Rick Neuheisel team. And, you know, Wisconsin's undergone a renewal. Illinois was there, got crushed by USC 15 years ago. It's Minnesota. Minnesota is really the most impoverished, big established Big Ten fan base, you know, setting aside Maryland and Rutgers and putting them in a separate corner.
Yeah, Rick?
I would have to agree with Matt on that. You know, Minnesota's got a lot of history. You look at PJ Fleck and what he's doing there. He's turning that program around. I think Minnesota would be excited to be playing in the Rose Bowl. So I would agree with Matt on that one.
And then we got to move to the second part of the schedule, which people have been talking about since USC said that they would be joining the Big Ten, and that's the two big factors: weather and travel for these poor children. That which we've many times dispelled that myth. But if you do look at the schedule for USC in 2024, you got that Penn State game, you got Purdue, Northwestern, and Maryland. What do you think? Do you think we're going to get one of those games in late November, where it's going to be an issue as far as the weather is concerned?
Well, I'm on record, and this like Tim and I have talked about this privately, but now I can say it publicly. Like, some people might want that Penn State road game to be a whiteout, and I don't think it's going to be. And you might want it to be, and it might still happen. But my educated guess would be that that's going to be big noon Saturday, because that is the only really high profile USC road Big Ten game in the Eastern time zone. You know, the other road games, as you look at the 2024 slate. Now, in 2025, you have 2025 on the screen, Tim.
Yeah, I'll go back.
USC at Ohio State. Like, that's, you know, a crown jewel game. And you also have USC at Wisconsin in 2025. But in 2024, as you look at it there, like Maryland, Northwestern, Purdue, they're not on the level of Penn State in terms of a prestige game. So like Fox's big noon Saturday is the heavy favorite to carry that Penn State game. And so it's not going to be a primetime game on NBC. And so for that reason, it's highly unlikely that's going to be a whiteout game for Penn State.
Well, it might be whiteout games for them in Minnesota and Wisconsin, depending on when this game is played, because they got both those guys on the road in 2025. And I'm thinking, I don't know. I think the Big Ten is going to stick it to us. And they're going to say what metal we're made out of. Again, I think I've talked about this earlier. The level of technology they have now, it's not going to be Anthony Munoz playing in the ice bowl, you know, with no sleeves and just manning it out. It's going to be, these guys have, I remember seeing the LSU kid who's trying the helmet that has air conditioning in the helmet. So the technology they have, these guys these days, is a lot better than it used to be. I don't think these kids, a lot of our guys, for instance, are from we're looking right now. We got kids now coming in from Connecticut. We have guys from the DMV, from Texas. These aren't places that are too cold, right? You know, they're used to cold weather, as well as the fact we've played in Boulder where it's been snow. We've played up in the Palouse, places that are very, very cold. I will say to you, you know, sometimes when we travel up and play in cold weather, it does kind of bring down. It does make the game a little bit closer than it has. It probably should have been comfortable if maybe USC was playing at home, but I don't think it's going to be that big of a difference. What do you guys think?
Yeah. So, hey, Mama Zemek's calling me to the dinner table, so I'm going to leave in just a minute. But before I do, this will be my last point. I'm not concerned about the cold I'm concerned about the combination of the cold and the body clock. And so, like, my worry for USC in the Big Ten, it's not going to be the weather itself. My concern is going to be the weather, like really cold for an early bird game, 11 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Pacific. It's the combination. Like cold weather for a 3:30 game, 3:30 Eastern game, cold weather for a night game. I don't think that's really going to matter. But for guys who will normally be operating on a West Coast Pacific time body clock, you play that nooner, you play that 11 a.m. Big Ten game, USC is going to have the superior team. But like if those guys just aren't ready to meet that body clock situation, and you'll like we've seen this happen a lot of times, like really good representative example. Remember 2015? That was the last really, really strong David Shaw Stanford team. Kevin Hogan was a veteran. He was an upperclassman. He knew the offense inside and out. And that Stanford team did go to the Rose Bowl. Christian McCaffrey was runner-up for the Heisman that year, and Stanford crushed Iowa in the Rose Bowl. So like that was a successful Stanford team, but it played an 11 a.m. Central Time game, a 9 a.m. Pacific Time game at Northwestern, and it couldn't tie its shoelaces. So that's really the thing with USC. It's less the weather. It's more the combination of weather and playing that body clock game. I want USC to have as many 3:30 and night kickoffs as humanly possible in the Big Ten. But of course, Fox is going to, get its share of big noon Saturdays. So that's my final point. Rick, Tim, you get to land the plane and field calls from viewers. So thanks so much.
You're welcome. Hey, Matt, again, as always, you guys, I put it, so there's in the description section, along with the phone number and the link to join us. In there's also a great article that Matt wrote this week at Trojan's Wire. And if you haven't gone over to Trojan's Wire, I go there every day. It's the first thing that I do when I get my USC information. You go there, there's multiple articles about USC. He's really been covering the scheduling nuances that we're going to be dealing with, like you just talked about just now with his work at the Trojan's Wire. The link is in the description. And I'm going to drop the link in the chat in a moment as well. Matt, we always appreciate you coming by. And you guys remember, tomorrow at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern, Matt will be on with Mark Rogers, the voice of college football, doing Trojan Live. So make sure you guys get there for that too. Matt, always a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks, guys.
Matt. We'll see you.
You bet.
USC is built for the Big Ten. And I'm not concerned as much as Matt is with the time of the game. The coaching staff will get us prepared for that once the schedule, times, and dates are released. And Lincoln Riley's a master of that. But if you take a look, a lot of the discussion is going to be, how is USC going to do? They're on an island, them and UCLA. You look at history. History will tell you USC has played a total of 34 times. And in the chat right now, go ahead and guess what USC's record is at away games historically at Big Ten schools during its history of football. Again, 34 games. And to let you know some records, Michigan has played out at Pac-12 schools. I put Utah and I put Colorado on this as well, even though Colorado, as we know, is a member of the Big 8 and the Big 12. They still had to travel. And Ohio State. Michigan played 18 games in their history at Pac-12 stadiums, and their record is 11-7, 61% winning percentage. They have the best winning percentage playing at Pac-12 schools. This is not in the Rose Bowl, not at a neutral site. It's at a Pac-12 stadium in their history, 18 games. Ohio State has played the most games against Pac-12 schools, 15, 10, and 1. They played 26. So it goes to show, okay, these are games where you're coming out a day and a half earlier. I know there's a lot of Big Ten fans that'll say, well, our record's not great in the Rose Bowl because, hey, it's a USC home game or it's on the West Coast. Well, you're out there for a week. And actually, the Big Ten, in games against the Pac-10, Pac-12, they're just under 500. They are 34-35. So actually the Big Ten does pretty good. But USC's record, does anybody have guesses there? We got 34-0 by Roger Dodger, 23-11 by touchdown USC. The record is 25-9. That's a 73.5 winning percentage. USC is 25-9. And how ironic is that number, actually? Because USC all time in the Rose Bowl is 25-9. So maybe it's the Big Ten that's got to be concerned about coming out here to LA for a day and a half. I'm not really concerned about USC. Part of that is it's a team that's built to play nationally. And part of that is the heritage with Notre Dame. Ever since 1926, there wasn't even air travel in 1926, but they did it by plane. So what do you think of that, Tim?
No, those are all really great numbers. And I'm going to put it this way as well. A couple things. Talking about the numbers and the wins. Yes, USC is, I believe, 6-4 against Michigan. But in the last 7 competitions, USC is 6-1 against Michigan. So a lot of those wins were a long time ago. Coming out to California and playing in the Coliseum, not the Rose Bowl. Ohio State won the last one against USC, but USC had won a string of them before that, go way back to the 70s. And every time they came out here, I showed you this, like Rick, with you or Tony, they were only scoring 3 points the last 3 times they came out to the Coliseum. And SC's putting up 30 points. These were absolute woodshed games when they've come out to the Coliseum to play USC.
Yeah.
Granted, when they did that, we had strong teams. And that's the difference. You know, you can get SC in a down year, it's fine. But when USC's rolling, you don't want to come out to the Coliseum. You know, you just don't want it to happen. As far as the travel, as far as the travel and the early games are concerned, how they're going to get around that, you guys, is, you know, usually you fly in, you have your walkthrough, and you have your game. I just think they go a couple days early. You know, let the kids acclimate to the type. It's not like they learned a lot. I guarantee you're going to see these kids doing some online learning like they did during COVID. You know, they shut down the whole school for a whole year, and they're doing online learning. Why can't they do the same thing when we're on travel weeks? And you think about it, so it's be 4 weeks out of the year, 4 weeks out of the semester that they'll be going out of town. I think that's how it's going to be tackled. And you get there like on a Wednesday and you acclimate to the time, you acclimate to the weather, you do a little extra time, get ready for that game. So again, all that stuff is going to be probably worked out with the coaching staff. If there's one thing I've learned in the little over a year that we've known, we had Lincoln Riley here. We know that they are very detail oriented, from recruiting to playing to scheming to play calling. They do it all, and they will have this team prepared.
One last thing on the travel. I'll credit Ohio State. Ohio State, as I mentioned, has a 15-10-1 record, which is right at 60%. And Ohio State challenged themselves. They've played 8 games against USC. They're 2-5-1, and that's part of the reason why the record is 15-10-1. But Ohio State has come out 8 times to the Coliseum and played USC. Why Michigan has only played once, I'll let Michigan and Ohio State fans parse that one out. But credit to Ohio State.
Tony, really quickly on this one, I hope Blue Blood USC does not become Blue Blood Nebraska when they join the Big Ten.
No.
The issue was here is a couple things. One, SC is not Nebraska. That's it. Love the Bug Eaters. You know, GB, go Big Red, all that. I love Nebraska. Here's the thing, though. When they moved from into the Big Ten, they lost their recruiting base. Nebraska is not known for having a lot of recruits, but they were recruiting in Texas a lot. Once they went to the Midwest, they really lost that connection with Texas. And that's where you're seeing, and plus, you know, getting rid of coaches they probably should have got rid of. It's just been a mess. I think with the right administration at USC, with a commitment to football like USC is showing right now, USC could play in any conference in the country. That's what I think. What do you think, Rick?
Absolutely. You just nailed it with Nebraska. USC will not become a has-been blue blood. Like I'd mentioned, we have the annual game with Notre Dame. So, you know, every other year USC is flying to the Midwest. You know, that's a 3,600-mile round trip.
All right. So listen, we have a couple people already on StreamYard. I don't want to keep them too long. We got to talk Conquest Collective. Then we can move into the chat. If you're there, hang on. A couple of you guys are in the call queue. I'm going to go ahead and open up the phone lines in a moment. Here's the hitch to this. I can only take one call at a time. So if someone on the phone, you guys don't keep calling through, because we're going to get an annoying beep coming through every time. So wait till the call's done and then go ahead and call in. We'll see how well the people listen to that one.
Okay.
So Conquest Collective, you guys, we had about a month ago, we had a great opportunity to have some really great guys come in here. First, Jeff McKay, grandson of John McKay, son of J.K. McKay, and Frank Martin, offensive lineman for USC from Modern Day. They came in and talked about the Conquest Collective. And then Manuel Hernandez also came on a subsequent show to talk about what they're doing. And I reached out to them. They gave me a little more information about what they have. So basically, it's just this. If you want to be a part of it, we've been talking for years about, oh, no NIL, what's USC doing, blah, blah. Well, now we have it. We have a couple collectives that are doing very well. We need to get involved. And this is how you do it. You can get involved. There are many tiers, but the lowest tier starts at $25 per month. Exclusive original player content, two tickets to a unique fan experience, Conquest Collective t-shirt, Conquest with koozie, access to the marketplace. And then for just $50, everything you get at the previous level, but also 4 tickets instead of 2 and 20% off merchandise. And remember, all this money that you are generating is going directly to Trojan football players to keep them at USC. Because remember one thing, recruiting is one thing, but now you got to recruit your players that are still here. And you heard people talk about it. You heard Ryan Day talk about how many millions it takes just to keep his players in place. So do a part. If you guys want to put your wallet where your mouth is, I heard a lot of people talk about how we can't get our stuff together with NIL. Here's your opportunity. Rick, anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, this is part of building your roster. The rules allow this. What a better time. Not a better time going to the Big Ten. It's going to help. As Tim mentioned, there's not only is it attracting top talent into the transfer portal, but it's player retention. Because these players have the ability to move, we don't want them to move on. We like them to be a Trojan for their 3 or 4 years that they want to stay here. So this is a way you can get involved and help out USC.
And then when Jeff was on here last time, I tried to get his email and his contact information out to you guys there. If you have any questions about the Conquest Collective, go ahead and give him a call or email him. I also have information. If you go into the content section as a link to their site, which we'll talk about the other tiers, please do take this opportunity to get involved. And with that, we are done. Time for us to start taking some phone calls. So again, we have 2 or 3 people in the queue already in StreamYard, but I will, after I get this first person who's been here for a while waiting, I will put a priority on phone calls that come in. So if you would like to call in, I'm going to open it up in a minute. As soon as we get done with this first person that's been waiting very patiently, then we will get to your phone calls. Please, I do invite you. The phone number is in the description below, but I won't be opening it up until we get through this first phone call. All right. And with that, Jamie Davenport. Jamie Davenport played with the USC baseball team in the late 80s. Good friend of Rick and Naya. Thanks for being here, Jamie.
Thanks, Tim. ALBC Trojan, how you guys doing?
Good.
What's up, Jamie?
Great to see you guys.
What's on your mind?
No, great show as usual, and I agree with the Minnesota. I'm a big PJ Fleck fan. Going back to what Matt Zemek said earlier, I think he was probably one of the candidates that we had when we were looking for a coach back in the day on the radar. As he turned around, he's doing a great job, obviously, in Minnesota, but I think it's a great hire for them, and I'd love to see them too. And I think overall, I think on the collective side, I think that we finally got our act together on that. I think when J32 has been announcing all the different commits that are coming in, it's for a reason. Obviously, what Lincoln Riley's doing, he's on fire right now. But I think the collective with Jeff McKay and another gentleman, Mern, did I butcher his name? Is it
Mur? Yeah, Mur Hernandez.
That's a big part of this whole success. I mean, we've all talked about it. We got to get that together, get in order, and we are. I think that's a big part of our success for recruiting, and we're going to see more momentum coming forward. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Any questions for us?
No, I think the last thing, I guess I'll just ask you guys, who do you think is going to be the biggest game? It's a loaded question next year, our must-win game in the schedule. I'll ask you for 2 games that are must-win games, are to be our toughest games, but the must-win games in conference next year. Who do you think?
Well, I think it's just going to have to be Oregon and Washington. I think that they're going to be, we're playing up in Eugene.
Right.
That's going to go a long ways to, we win that game. First off, I do not want to leave this conference going out, losing to the Ducks. That's just a given. I don't want that to happen. We have the team to do it. There's no excuses. And then Washington, I think Washington is the team to beat, because I think the Ducks are going to lose a couple of games. I think they're going to lose to Oregon State as well. So that Husky game here at the Coliseum, I think that might actually go a long way to keeping USC ahead of who are that second place team, because I think it'll be Washington. We're going to rematch Washington. I'm certain of it. Rick, what do you think?
You're absolutely right, Tim. It's It's Oregon and Washington. Those games are at the end of the year. It's at Eugene. It's at Autzen.
Mm-hmm.
That is the last game that we're going to be playing at Autzen for a considerable amount of time. I don't know if I'll ever see us going there again. And Washington with Michael Penix,
Agree with that.
they're going to be in it. They're going to be in it for a Pac-12 championship berth. I do believe we will take care of Utah at home. And a big reason for that is we're at home, and Utah has not been a good road team, and they have a couple other challenging road games. So I don't see them competing for one of the two Pac-12 championship berths. So those two games, Washington, Oregon, going to be electric.
Great. And Tim, I know you have callers coming. I'll just make one brief statement. I listened to Tony Battiti on the Rick Eisen show today. He's a new commissioner for the Big Network. And I really liked what you had to say about SC and UCLA. His goal is to integrate those two schools that are important to this conference. There's a whole onboarding process that they're communicating right now. And I think, all everything all related to that, I think it's going to be a great opportunity for us from TV money and all that. But I think from an onboarding perspective, the kids but Benny Wiley and the coaching staff, the nutrition, and getting them in shape and adjusting the time frame, I think we'll be fine. And Lincoln and the team and the staff will adjust the practices to the time zone based on that Saturday. So it's all good. It's all a lot of love there. I'm excited. And that's all I have.
Yeah, great points as always, Jamie. And we've always appreciate. We try to get you calling more often because you bring great thoughts like that as well. So thank you for taking time to watch the show and drop in, say hi.
Great seeing you guys.
Hey, thanks, Jamie. Fight on, man.
Fight on, man.
All right, so I'm now opening up the phone. Let's give it a go. Who out there wants to go ahead and be our first on the Trojan Conquest live show to call in? We just lost whoever. We had two people that dropped off. If you guys that were in the queue, if you guys want to come back in, we can get you in right away. A couple of questions, and if we can't get any calls, then I guess we'll just go. We'll call tonight, Rick. First one here is Bart Willoughby. With Caleb Williams gone in 2024, what makes everybody so sure about USC's chances in the Big Ten for 2024?
You want to go ahead and give that a go first, Tim?
Yeah, actually, go ahead, because I'm trying to do a couple of things backstage here.
Hey, Bart, I appreciate your question. I appreciate your support. I've recognized your name. You're here a lot. I appreciate that. And I know Tim does as well. What makes everybody so sure of SC's chances? Well, there's a guy named Miller Moss. And Miller Moss, this is the second year in Lincoln Riley's system. And I have to believe that Miller Moss, with Caleb Williams leaving, Miller Moss could leave, possibly, because he's a graduate. But I believe he's going to stay because of NIL and the opportunity that's in front of him. Now, he'll be competing against Malachi Nelson, but I would have to give the edge to Miller Moss because him knowing the system and the opportunity of going to the Big Ten schedule, we could play 1 year and then go to the NFL. So I think it's a great opportunity for that young man. The team has confidence in Miller Moss. So that's what's the most important thing. He's very capable. He's just sitting behind the Heisman Trophy winner, kind of like Matt Castle, who was behind Matt Leinart. And ironically, Matt Castle this past week was named to the NBC college football broadcasting crew. I think he's going to be doing some color or he'll be in the studio. But congrats to Matt Castle.
Yeah, I think also we're looking at defense. We're looking at our lines to be stronger. We've been blessed to have Caleb Williams. He's going to do. He's going to get us through this transition period. Instead of looking at 9-3 seasons, 8-4 seasons that we might have seen without someone as spectacular as Caleb Williams, it's going to help us bridge from, our situation before Lincoln Riley got here. Caleb was good for 2-3 wins on his own. When we saw that as soon as Caleb, who did a great job at mitigating the other issues we had within the team, went down in the conference championship game, it's clear to see that how much this team needs him. But I'm hoping by 2024, with a couple more recruiting classes, with a couple more portal classes, that USC's overall team roster, it'll be, I guess, a team effort, because you're not going to replace a guy like Caleb Williams, right? I mean, we know that the guy's a Heisman Trophy winner, got a chance to go ahead and be the first person since Archie Griffin to repeat as a Heisman Trophy. He's special, and they don't grow on trees. But what I'm hoping is that the team as a whole, the pieces are bringing in now, developing these offensive linemen, like we said, need a little time to fill in their frames. I think by 2024, gives a whole nother year, bringing in some more guys through the portal. I think that we're gonna be ready for the Big Ten. This is just a comment, not a question. Can we please learn to set the edge and tackle? I think JJ had a great point the other day. He said, we were one of the worst teams in the country and missed tackles, but the only way you get there is if you are in a position to make tackles. So the issue then is can you actually make the tackle? And I'm hoping that the players step up and can help them out, because there were players that say, hey, look, this is on us. We're in position. We're just not making the plays. And finally, another one, Harbaugh will try to run the score up versus USC if he can in 2024. Well, I'd like to see him try. I don't know if he's going to be able to, because one thing I do know, he might put a lot of points up. That's true. They got those great lines, and always have great running backs there. But I have a pretty good idea that we'll also be scoring a lot of points. So it might be a hell of a shootout. Thoughts, Rick?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I forgot about that with Harbaugh coming back to the Coliseum. Him being the former coach at Stanford. But that's going to be a great game. And yeah, I would expect Jim Harbaugh to have something in his game plan. A few things in his game plan special for USC. He's a Michigan man, and he's a former player for Bo Schembechler, and he was a Stanford coach, and he was successful against Pete Carroll. So
yeah,
and Jim's a competitor, so he'll have something for USC in 2024.
Someone made the point about the "What's Your Deal" game with Pete Carroll, saying that, and that they said it'd be a perfect scenario when we put a whooping on him. That he walks up to Lincoln Riley and says, "Hey, what's your deal?" So maybe we can know what's your deal game with that one. Miller Moss was a 4-star, but a high 4-star, and he's a great athlete. I'm not going to harp on the recruiting services. They're not 100%. Just because you're a 5 stars doesn't mean you're a star, and just because you're a 4 stars doesn't mean you're better than all of the 5 stars ahead of you, right? So I mean, it all comes down to how well do you fit the system. Lincoln Riley had nothing but praise for Miller Moss, and I'm hoping that he sticks it out and he is playing, and he and Malachi Nelson, whoever wins the job, will be the quarterback in 2024.
Yeah, and he has a good understanding of the offense. He's going to have another year in the program. I really see him, because of NIL and the type of, what we've read about him, Tim, with respect to his teammates, I can see him sticking around for one more year and playing in the Big Ten. And I feel 100% confident if he was named starting quarterback for 2024. That's getting way ahead of ourselves. I get that, but I'm just playing the hypothetical game based on Bart's question. So totally 100% comfortable with Miller Moss.
Well, you guys have all been great. And we are trying to build a channel. USCJ came on the other night. I love his show. I think I'm going to be joining him next week on his show. I really hope that you guys that are here, I know we have some new faces. Go ahead and take an opportunity. Just one more time, I'm going to ask you guys, go ahead. And if you guys have enjoyed this show, there's a lot of you out there right now. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you let us know. We're growing fans. That means that we're giving you content that you enjoy. If you have any questions or concerns or things you want to see in the show, please drop us a comment in the comment section. And also, if you're watching this, not live, but afterwards, we were asking you guys that in the comment section, let us know who you think, if you can only go to one game in 2024 on that schedule in the Big Ten, and also bring in Notre Dame and LSU. If you can only go to one game, what game would that be? And that being said, let me pull up the, so let's close out the poll here. And with 48%, Michigan at home is our number one, 30 for LSU in Vegas, 16% they want to see people go to Happy Valley and Penn State, and 6% and Notre Dame at home. And I'm thinking that's just the novelty of it. It's kind of weird that we'd see only 6% of people want to go to a Notre Dame game. But obviously, I think 2024 is a very special year. And the fact that we are going to be playing, in the new conference and playing an SEC team, I think that probably detracted from a lot of fans that definitely always want to go to that Notre Dame game. All right, then. Well, then I will call a night. You guys have been wonderful. Thank you so much. Remember, tomorrow, 8 o'clock, you'll have Matt Zemek, Pacific, with Mark Rogers on the Trojan Live Show. For Rick, this is Tim. Hope you guys enjoyed the show, and we will see all of you guys later. And just as we're leaving, one more time, what's going on at USC?
Hold up. In the building.
What are we drinking? What are we sipping on? What are we sipping on?
Commitments.
Hold up.
in the building.
What we drinking? What we sipping on? What we sipping on?